Today we're talking about the distributive property. So to reiterate or review what the distributive property is, if I have a number outside of parentheses of two numbers that are added or subtracted to one another, I can distribute or multiply this outside number to both of the inside numbers to get the same thing, except as AB plus AC in this case. So, some kind of more real-world examples where this could apply. If you, let's say, had numbers that were a little harder to deal with, like decimals and stuff, you could break it apart so that you could use the distributive property. So like here, 4 gallons of milk at $3.20 per gallon. Well, that's telling you to multiply $4 or 4 gallons times $3.20. But if you did that in your head, maybe you could do this, maybe you couldn't. But if you break it apart into an addition of two numbers that are easy, so let's say 3 plus 0.20, now we could multiply our 4 to each of these numbers, which makes it a little easier to think about. So 4 times 3 gives us 12, plus 4 times 0.2, now 2 is 8, so 0.2 is 0.8. Okay? And then that'll add up to give us $12.80. Okay? Same thing we can do with our 8 times 427. Where I can break the 427 apart into maybe not just the two numbers, but maybe three numbers. So like I could say 400 plus 220, then plus 7. Now all those multiplications to 8 are a lot easier than thinking about 427. So 8 times 400 is 3200. Let me show. So multiply, and then to the 20, and then to the 7. So then 8 times 20 is 160, and then 8 times 7 is 56. So then adding those up gives you 3,416. Okay. Now we can do this with other distributive or parentheses that have other things going on. So let's say I have 8 times 20. I could multiply the 8 to the 20 and to the 5. Gives me 160 for the first one and 40 for the second one, which adds up to 200. Now notice how I don't forget the last number. I think most kids, when they do this, they look at this first area and see A parenthesis B. Oh, it must be multiplication, so I'm just going to multiply A times B and I'm done. But they forget that the parenthesis goes further than just around the B. So that's, I think, where the mistake or the misconception happens. So make sure that you continue to look through, especially with something like that, for the 8 times 427, so that we remember to do that. Here, for the next one, you have 2 times x and 2 times 9. Now notice how we have 2 times x plus 18. Think about it. Can I put those two things together? If I look at them, they're different because 2 has an x attached to it and 18 does not. So therefore, they're not considered like terms, and that's something we'll talk about in another video. But because of that concept, they can't go together because of the x. I would like to think about it as it being there. You have 2 apples plus 18 oranges. They're different. They're not the same. So if you had all numbers like we had up here with 3200 and 160 and 56, they're all numbers, so they can add together quite nicely. But when you have x's, you can't do that. So So then 2x plus 18 is your answer. So same thing with the last one. You have negative 3 times 4 and negative 3 times negative 5m. Don't forget about the negatives. So negative 3 times 4 is negative 12, and negative 3 times negative 5m is positive 15m. Same thing as the last one. The m, or the 15m, does not go with the negative 12 to get you 3m because they are not like terms. Okay? So that concludes this video.